Hello again. I guess that you might excuse me in saying that lunch was a practical exercise in sustainability. I'd like to welcome everyone back, and I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Ms. Bell Holder, who will be taking over as your MC for the latter part of this evening's presentation. We're now into the third and final segment of our technical conference. In this part of the program, we'll be looking at energizing the Caribbean's data and information culture. We'll restart, however, with a look at a partner spotlight.
When we started the discussion with TAPSEC, my first instinct was this is an amazing way to take us into a new space. With this particular initiative on sustainability, we saw our role as one where we could influence the educational shift.
The support that was given through TAPSEC was research-based, where we, through the consultants, they were able to act as subject matter experts in our review and our panel meetings, showing us, the tips, the examples of how the greening concepts could be integrated or infused in our specific objectives or in our content, so that, of course, the whole idea of sustainability can come across to both our students and our teachers.
When it got to the experts, it got very exciting, I will tell you. And we were able to identify opportunities for the integration of sustainable green ideas, renewable energy ideas in a number of our syllabuses here at CXC. And we thought it was important.
The project is the mainstreaming greening learning concept in the educational syllabus of the Caribbean Examinations Council. The fact that the syllabuses are designed to really allow students to be exposed to the content and the concepts around sustainability, around energy efficiency and renewable energy will really cause them to be molded in the direction that it is hoped that they will go.
While we started out with the idea of impacting teaching and learning within our schools and integrating seamlessly sustainable ideas and sustainable practices within different subjects where it is not normally commonplace, we would have impacted families. And once we impact families, we impact society. And once we impact society, then we can anticipate change.
It was really a team effort. I think the process was very consultative. We collaborated well, and the relationship that was formed was really good.
So I want to just say thanks to TAPSEC, thanks to the consultants from the UG team that worked with us, and thanks to our teachers for entertaining the idea, embracing the idea, and we look forward to further partnerships of this nature coming out of the CARICOM Secretariat, whether it is going to be with TAPSEC or some other grouping. We look forward to it. It was an absolute pleasure working with the TAPSEC group. We thank you.
So at this time, we will begin our session on energizing the Caribbean's data and information culture. Dr. Nebert Blair, Capacity Building Advisor at GIZ TAPSEC, will be facilitating this discussion with our esteemed members of the panel. Here now an insight into what we can expect.
Good morning. for the Caribbean to realize the transition in the energy and electricity sectors toward a less fossil fuel dependent future and to achieve 48% renewable energy installed capacity along with improved systems efficiencies, minimum energy competencies are required by the major stakeholders involved in the energy transition process. During a preliminary scan assessment completed in 2019, several key stakeholders were identified, and various aspects for capacity building, along with data and information access, were recognized as areas for immediate attention. Within the lifespan of TAPSEC, the capacity building component has embarked on many projects that aim to satisfy the capacity gaps and instill a new culture in data mining and information in the Caribbean. During this panel, we will identify some of the major initiatives completed. We will also discuss the impacts these interventions will have on utilities, regulators, financial institutions, consultants, regional universities, regional institutions, secondary school students and teachers, and the public. The discussion will raise awareness on the interrelation and the interconnection aspects of the projects and the main stakeholders. It will summarize experiences of implementing institutions and briefly outline some avenues for collaboration and areas for future development. Welcome to Session 3, Energizing the Caribbean's Data and Information Culture.
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols observed. And I will now introduce to you my distinguished panel. To my right is Dr. Cletus Burton, Executive Director for CARILEC. To my further right is Ms. Sherry-Ann Fackerson, Knowledge Management and Capacity Development Expert, CCRI. To my left is Ms. Jodine Williams, who you would have seen from CXC, Senior Manager, Syllabus Development and Syllabus and Curriculum Development, Caribbean Examination Council. And to my farther left, Dr. Ruth Potop-Singh, Associate Vice President, Sustainable Energy, University of Technology, Jamaica. Welcome. And thank you for being here today. I know we always save the thanks for after, but I will say thanks. So we go straight into our discussion. And to set the stage for this discussion, I will have a regional perspective presented to us by one of our key implementing partners, CCRI, and this will be done by Ms. Sherry-Ann Fackerson. And Sherry will share with us today about some of the projects implemented under the capacity building component of the TAPSEC program. During this program, TAPSEC program, CCRI and TAPSEC, we collaborated on a number of programs that we also run with other regional institutions. So instead of me sharing with you what those programs were, I will let our partners invited here today do us the honor. So, CCRI.
Thank you, Niebert. And you would have heard several of these programs mentioned throughout the program this morning, and that is just because of the interrelated nature of what the capacity building component has sought to achieve, where capacity building has been integrated into every other aspect of the implementation of the program. So I'll begin with the activity that is closest to me, which is the CARICOM Energy Knowledge Hub. And that has evolved as the go-to place for everything energy across the region. It includes several applications. One of them, which is key to this discussion, is a learning management system, so that the capacity building programs that would have been developed throughout TAPSEC will be available for other persons to be able to access on demand. Key to the data and information that's going to be necessary for us to be able to make this transition, as you'd have heard this morning, we have our annual energy report card, which was supported by TAPSEC over, I think, the 3 years, if I remember correctly. And we have, through that program, not just collecting data on the energy sector in each of the CARICOM member states, but also building capacity by hiring interns from the different member countries who are able to get that insight and introduction to the regional energy sector. And on the note of internships, we've also had more longer-standing internships through the Regional Energy Apprenticeship Program, or the REAP, and several of the REAPs are here today, and several more of them have also since going through that program have received longer-standing jobs within the sector. Just another testament to that capacity that we're building and preparing the next generation to continue this energy transition. Along with the CARICOM Energy Knowledge Hub, we have most recently implemented with OLADE the Regional Energy Information System, or SIE CARICOM, which is more focused on having that data available to make those customized reports and to be able to answer those questions that are going to be required for planning and for policy. So the energy report cards are more of a static document, but with the implementation of the Regional Energy Information System, we now can start looking at trends and be able to support planning more effectively. You would have heard from the CXC team in their testimonial about the greening of the CXC syllabuses. This is one key element of the program with TAPSEC. So it's not just about reaching those who are already in the sector, but introducing concepts of sustainability to our children as early as possible, so that regardless of their field that they go into, they will start thinking differently about how they approach sustainability. We've trained energy practitioners in the low emissions analysis platform LEAP, and this is one of several modeling tools for which training has been done across the region through the TAPSEC program. We've also implemented an energy modeling and renewable energy integrated virtual laboratory, and that resides within the SICRI, where modeling capabilities can be made available to utilities, to energy ministries, so they can come to us. You heard very much about the IRRP program, which heavily utilizes these modeling services so that we can answer those questions for the region. I think for a long time, we oftentimes go to consultants outside, but one of the key things that we appreciated about TAPSEC is that a part of that program was to build the capacity within the region so that the benefits will outlast TAPSEC, because the capacity will reside here with the people of the Caribbean. One of the key partners that we were able to collaborate with through this program are the regional universities, and that through the Regional Universities Network. And there were several key activities that were implemented with the Regional Universities Network, because we understood and appreciated that it was important for our academics, or brightest minds, to be able to support us in answering those questions, to be able to give us those best practices, and to also put the training in place for the engineers who are coming up within the sector. And so the implementation of the Regional Universities Network and having that functionally undertaking several projects that are of regional importance was another key coming out of the TAPSEC program. With one of our regional universities, the University of the West Indies Mona campus, we've seen the implementation of a microgrid project, which is a center of excellence for training on microgrids. You'd have heard about using microgrids for energy access, and so we want to ensure that as these microgrids are being built out, that we also have the training facilities available so that our engineers and persons in the utilities, persons who are just entering the sector, will have the opportunity to understand the mechanics and how to operate a microgrid. The financing segment this morning spoke about the project preparation facility, and there were several trainings that were undertaken as a part of ensuring that we can effectively implement the PPF. And so we had training for financial institutions because we have to get their buy-in. And so we ensure that we did have training with them, but also with our project developers. There was training there to ensure that they can get that support to design and develop those projects that have an increased likelihood of bankability. And I know it's a very long list, I'm almost done, but we really have done quite a bit on capacity building. So we've also had, with our project developers who have been a part of the project preparation facility, most of those projects were solar PV projects, and so we sought to implement training on installation and maintenance of solar PVs with another one of our centers of excellence, this time with Wigtown Wind Farm. We have several other centers of excellence that have been established with the University of the West Indies Mona for solar PV, University of the West Indies Cave Hill for solar thermal, and St. Augustine for electric vehicles, Crosskew for standards and quality, and at the risk of forgetting, Wigtown Wind Farm for wind energy. And the final capacity building intervention that I'll mention, and I'm sure Niebert will let me know if I missed any, was an electric vehicle training of trainers, which you recognize has come out as a key component of the plans for the different governments. And so we wanted to ensure that first responders, mechanics, persons who are training mechanics and first responders, and also our policymakers understood what it is that would be required for us to maintain these electric vehicles, because it is good that we're pushing to have them on the road, but we want to also make sure that we can manage and maintain them once they're there. So, Niebert, I think those are the key capacity building that we've implemented, and as I said, capacity building has been woven through every aspect of the program because we wanted to ensure that the people of the region benefited long-term from the TAPSEC.
Thank you very much, Sherry-Ann. Yes. So those are some of the key programs that we would have implemented under capacity building. In addition to that, under the other two components, component 1, which was policy, and component 3, financing, there are other trainings as well that were accredited under capacity building, which is the one that is recently completed was the IUS training that happened 2 days ago. And to proceed in terms of what it actually looked like in developing this data kind of culture, what that looks like in terms of the SIE, we will now see what Olade has helped us to accomplish with a video recording from Mr. Madaro Sidena. Olade?
Good morning, I'm Medaro Cadena, Director of Studies, Projects and Information. I am in charge of all the studies and projects that Olade develops, and I lead the technical team that manages the energy information systems. Olade is an international intergovernmental organization that brings together 27 Latin American and Caribbean countries. Our work is aimed at providing advice and technical support to all member countries in all matters related to energy. Within the framework of the TAPSEC program, Olade, in a joint effort with CARICOM and East Caribbean Center of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency (CICRI), implemented the CARICOM Regional Energy Information System, CIE-CARICOM, which strengthens the capacity to manage, store, and process statistical energy information based on international standardized methodologies. The CIE-CARICOM has different modules for statistic management: energy balances, hydrocarbons and electricity infrastructure, reserves and potential, GIG emission balances, energy forecasting module, legal and documentary database. It was developed and implemented by Olade's team, which worked together with the International Energy Agency in the harmonization process of energy balances and related information. It's important to mention the great support of CICRI's team too. Officials of SICRI and the Caribbean countries were trained on energy balances and forecasting, as well as on the management of the system. Our experience working with CARICOM and SICRI was excellent. Thanks to this, we achieved the goals of the project. The quality of energy statistics in CARICOM has been improved. Energy balances in the region can be automatically obtained. CARICOM officials were trained, and as the final product, we have a robust energy information system harmonized with international standards. DCE CARICOM. Thank you very much.
Right, so there we had it from OLADE, the SIE CARICOM data mining system and modeling that we can do. So to go directly to one of our key stakeholders who are responsible or who are to be involved in a major way in this energy transition for this 47% RE that we spoke about in our energy policy, and a lot of this is actually hinged towards that. I will go to Dr. Cletus Burton from CARILEC, who will tell us about some of the programs that we would have supported during that 5-year period, and we will have a deeper look as we converse. Dr. Burton.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, everyone. I would just pick up from the brief comments I made just before lunch, and to thank TAPSEC for this opportunity to share and discuss. Always a pleasure to interact with colleagues. So as you heard just before lunch, CARILEC is in the process of transitioning, and it just so happened that the TAPSEC project came on stream for us just at the opportune time. We have been able to partner with TAPSEC in the various components that you've been hearing about throughout the course of today and over the last 2 days at the workshop. I would just like to highlight just a couple of these. First of all, we received support from TAPSEC in the preparation of a comprehensive TOR for the development of an automated utility benchmarking platform. Now that speaks squarely to the issue of leveraging data for evidence-based decision-making, which is really the cornerstone of our position paper on energy transition, or one of the cornerstones, I should say. So we are of the view that the target setting, energy transitioning should be evidence-based, data-driven. And so in that regard, the gathering, collecting, analysis, reporting of KPIs on utility performance is critical. And so we have embarked on the development of an automated, web-based, distributed benchmarking platform for the utilities across the region. We are at the development stage of this platform. We have 20 utilities participating actively in the development of the platform. So it's very much user-driven and being customized to report in a very dynamic, timely, consistent manner on key KPIs across the utility sector. That, when it's launched in about 2 months from now, July, August, we're in the testing phase now. User testing is happening as we speak. We do have the mock-up, the front-end, back-end databases have been developed by a consultant based in Barbados, I should add, through the competitive selection process. Atom Solutions, I could mention, a Barbadian company, won the tender and is working with a team of utility engineers in the development of that platform. And it's expected that that will assist greatly in terms of informed decision-making by the utilities, but also to assist in evidence-based policy formulation, as we indicated earlier. So basically leveraging data for more informed decision-making. The KPIs speak to energy transitioning, affordability, reliability, the environment, safety, and resiliency. So a comprehensive list of KPIs will be reported upon in a dynamic way, consistent, in a more timely way than in the past, thanks to the support of TAPSEC in the initial stages of this project and continued consultation with various partners. This, we believe, will make a difference in terms of how we move through the transition as it relates particularly to target setting and adjustments, course corrections that we need to make along the way, given the data sets that will be coming in through the platform. The other area that we found particularly useful was the engagement on the CARICOM policy and regulatory help desk. And that assisted us in looking at some of the gaps that existed, that exist still, but existed in some of the regulatory frameworks, policy frameworks across the region. CARILEC was very much involved in the evaluation of the submissions that received funding support from the CARICOM policy and regulatory help desk, and that we believe is a critical cornerstone also of the transitioning. It is articulated in our position papers that we do believe that full engagement with regulators and policymakers and building capacity for the transitioning needs to be done across the board. So while we often speak of the transitioning of utilities, we also believe that the regulatory apparatuses, the regulatory frameworks also need to transition in light of the new realities, the new dispensations. So in order to incentivize and to set the enabling framework for the transitioning that is required by the utilities and the other players in the market to attract investments, for example, from IPPs, to enable or facilitate the smooth operation of ESCO models, for example. We need the regulatory framework, we need the mechanisms, both at the primary legislation and secondary legislation needs to be in place, ideally. So the last thing I would just speak briefly about, as we've heard a lot about the IUS model. And obviously that would speak to the more efficient use of energy at the consumer level, but also enable more sustainable business models by the utilities in the market. And obviously that is something that speaks directly to the transitioning that the CARILEC member utilities have been undergoing. You heard from Amanda this morning this afternoon, I think it was, before lunch. We went into the afternoon, I think. So in addition to the 4 utilities that were part of the pilot for the IUS, you've heard that other utilities are also keen to explore that model and see the modalities, but again, that will require some adjustments in the policy and regulatory landscape in order to enable those models to be effectively adopted across the board. So we're looking at joint action by policymakers, regulators, and CARILEC member utilities, which, again, as I mentioned before the break, not just exclusively utilities, but also IPPs, other players in the market, adopting the ESCO model, and the repositioning that CARILEC has done in keeping with some of the core objectives of the TAPSEC project is that for the utilities to see themselves, again, not just as selling kilowatt hours, but as delivering an energy service, which can be done through different modalities, different business models. For example, the whole question of EV adoption is something that very few utilities have actively ventured into. So that is something we need to explore more aggressively in terms of knowledge sharing of models that have been successful in Barbados right here, for example, and to see how that could be adopted and adapted across the region. And that, again, would enable the utilities to reposition themselves in the market for greater relevance and enable the transition the energy transition that is required. There are a couple more points that I would make, but I'll allow the discussion to go around and come back and jump in again at a later stage. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Burton. Of course, there will be some questions into what are some of the impacts of those training. And before we do that, we will go to our next panelist, Ms. Jodine, who would also speak to the work that we would have done with CXC. There were 10 subjects that we were involved with that we helped to do some syllabus development so that we could include a greening focus. And we know CXC has a lot more subjects and will need support. So, Ms. Jodine.
Good afternoon, and Thank you for the opportunity to participate in the conversation. The Caribbean Examinations Council was very excited to be a part of this particular process, and it afforded us an opportunity to build on another project which was focused on greening, coming out of the CARICOM Secretariat as well. Well, Niebert mentioned it. We have over 80 syllabuses. This project would have impacted 11, if we count green engineering, that is. And so for us, I guess I'm going ahead of myself by saying that looking forward to further collaboration is something we'd be excited about. But what happened on the all project? So we had 3 components to the project. The initial focus was on institutional strengthening, and I usually try to say that very slow, courtesy of my lisp. And you would have heard that mentioned in the video presentation earlier. And for that particular component, there's significant emphasis on research, making sure that there is a clear understanding regarding what the priorities of the region are with respect to greening, sustainability, renewable energy, energy efficiency. Why is that so important? As the region's examining board, we have responsibility to facilitate certification at varied levels, and in particular, this project impacted our products at the secondary level and at the post-secondary level. So we had 5 CSEC syllabuses that were impacted and 7 CAPE syllabuses at the post-secondary level. So that would have impacted not just post-secondary, but also tertiary. So the focus with respect to institutional strengthening surrounded that particular area. The second component had to do with capacity building, and that's where we trained a little under 2,000 teachers across the region from 19 territories. And the training was specific to green engineering in the first instance, and that would have been heavily content-based, making sure persons were clear on what is sustainability, how that works, and the different considerations around sustainable issues. But the second component of the training impacted teachers from subject areas that were not necessarily green subjects. And this was, for me, the most exciting part because it focused on the integration of these green ideas, for instance, in a social studies, which perhaps would not necessarily have benefited from this kind of integration in the past. But when we did the analysis on this project write-up, we thought that if we are to catalyst the kind of change that the political directorate had articulated through the CARICOM agenda, then it was important for us to try and impact everybody. So we focused on context and behavioral change for some of those subject areas, while in some of the other subject areas, we focused on the hardcore concepts. Right, the final component of our project had to do with resource development. So for every single training initiative, there are resources that were developed and are available. The trainings were facilitated through the CXC Learning Institute, which is a training arm of CXC. We have an LMS portal, and so there is an asynchronous course available to the persons who participated so that they can go on and do a refresher at their own leisure. And the persons who may not have benefited can go on, register for the course, and do that self-paced training. Because of the modeling approach which was used in the capacity building intervention, a teacher who may not be so au fait with greening and sustainability, like myself at the very beginning, I think I feel a little bit more comfortable with the language of it now, will be able to take the lesson and the lesson idea as it is and implement it within their classroom. And that's exactly what we were gunning for. So if that works well, and I think it will, then we should have the kind of domino effect to change that is being anticipated through the TAPSEC project.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Nicely covered. And to shed some light on the Regional Universities Network, there were some key projects that we did in that, with that group to ensure that we can now further, one, inform policy, and two, continue to build capacity in our tertiary institutions, mainly our universities, through the runs. So to introduce us to those programs, I'll invite Dr. TAPSEC.
And good afternoon, everyone. What a pleasure it is to be here face to face again with everybody. It's really amazing, and I think that forms part of capacity building. So I'm happy to be here to share with you the activities of the Regional Universities Network. And I want to say at the very beginning that the establishment of this Universities Network is, in fact, a great capacity building effort under the TAPSEC. We have been able to collaborate with other universities in the region, something that we did not have an organized way of doing. And so under the TAPSEC, we were able to, five projects were undertaken by 4 universities on 5 campuses. So hope I've confused you enough. So the University of the West Indies undertook 2, well, if I should just backtrack and say that if I were to categorize the projects that were undertaken, we could say they were done under 3 major categories. Capacity building through training. And under these training programs, we saw modules being developed for renewable energy, for green business and entrepreneurship and innovation. We also saw the development of courses in energy management and energy statistics. We saw the development of modules that will help to better understand the Caribbean Renewable Energy and Efficiency Building Code. A lot of effort has been put into writing this code and getting consensus across the region, and it is important that training be done even at the undergraduate level and for our local government persons. So the projects that we undertook were very problem-solving and gap-filling enterprises. We were very aware of that, and so it's not just an academic exercise, or they were not academic exercises. We want to say that the project itself, everybody knows that a project has an end life, but this is just the beginning in terms of the work that has been done, and with the help of the Knowledge Hub, the CARICOM Knowledge Hub, then these modules will be available throughout the region, and we will continue to build on what has been achieved under the TAPSEC. So we had UWI, 2 campuses that had projects. UWI Mona, that focused on the energy statistics, data analysis, and management, data management. And as Sherry-Ann mentioned before, there was a 3-day workshop, and a lot of countries were represented, especially from the governments of the region, and they were able to actually deliver that course, and it is available for further use by whomever would want to use it. The other one was by UWI, which is our regional university, was marine assessment of marine energy, which, you know, Devon is noted for saying we have more water around us than the actual land area that we have. And so it's so critical for us to look at the marine resources. So there was an assessment for research and development, basically on offshore wind, solar, as well as tidal energy and OTEC. That was done for 3 countries, Barbados, Grenada, and Tobago, part of Trinidad and Tobago, of course. And that information, they were able to use models and software so that it can help not just the academics, but also investors. The University of Suriname took on the development of the courses for building management systems, building physics. So those are some basic things, and I think that will feed in very well to the green engineering that we see happening in Cape. There were 4 modules that were developed. The University of Technology, Jamaica, where I'm from, we actually converted 4 of our Masters in Sustainable Energy modules to fully online courses. A lot of distance learning took place during the pandemic, and we all recognized that it was like just teaching in a classroom only in front of a screen. But there's a lot more to online learning, and so we have advanced significantly in converting 4 modules into fully online. I believe that one of the most important areas that as academics that we needed to address was how we influence policy. And the University of Guyana undertook a study to build a framework on addressing energy poverty in the region. Energy, we tend to look at sustainable energy mostly in terms of the technical advancements. But it is time for us to humanize this energy and to make it very real to our people and to involve them a lot more. So an ability to assess what are the reasons why there is so much energy poverty in the region, and not just because we don't have fossil fuel resources, but other factors including size of households. Why are we still burning charcoal? Why are the incomes, so low, and so on? So this model that the University of Guyana is working on is a crucial one for the region, and we hope to have a virtual training on the outcome of that study, and which can be applied throughout the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pratap Singh and panelists, for identifying the programs. Now we'll have our little discussion, of which I'll try my best to take heed of the limited time we have left. So we have heard from CXC, which looks at our secondary education from year 13 to year 17 or 18. And then we've heard from our regional universities network, where our stalwarts, most of us in this room, come from. And then the electric utility, and we have our regional partner institution with us, SECRI. So the reason for this discussion now is to find out where are some of the areas for collaboration going forward. After listening to the different programs that we have been involved with in terms of building capacity, we're not there yet, as we would have heard about the study being done in 2019, looking at our rapid scan assessment to develop or to identify the gaps in our capacity that will allow us to have that transition where by 2027, we would have the right people in place to effect that 47% renewable energy grid generation. So, to do so, to start us off, I would like to ask Ms. Jodine, how can we integrate what we've learned from the SIE curriculum, the data that we can collect from that, information that we can have from the automated system from CARILEC, and also what we have seen from the CEKH. And so I will have Ms. Jodine tell us about some of the things that CXC might be able to do, because we know there's a significant aspect in the CXC syllabus that looks at the school-based assessment, which, for those of you who don't know, we usually call that SBAs. And SBAs, it's an avenue for young people to start looking at data to make prudent decisions. So it's a very good, we have 3 very good tools there identified, and it would be good to see how we can start from a very young age with our youths to incorporate the tools we now have.
Thank you so much, Nibert. Just to clarify that we do have a presence at the primary level. And so from our own perspective, while this project was pitched at the secondary level, if we are going to collaborate for future undertakings, then I'd want to say, let's look at it from the primary level. And at the primary level, we could look at the same kind of integration with our students, and that would be for the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment. And then when we get to the secondary level, we have a lot of exciting things happening at the secondary level at CXC. Most exciting is the recent development where we are developing a new product, a new qualification called the CTEC, where there's a heavy focus on citizenship and skills building. And if we are to do any level of integration, that would be a beautiful place to start, I must say. But then we could repeat exactly what we did under this project yet again. And the reason I'm saying that is because so far, only 11 syllabuses were impacted, and you could do the maths, we have over 80. So we have over 70 other syllabuses that we could treat with. We would have come out of this particular project with digital toolkits. We would have come out with facilitator guides. We would have had learner guides. And we also had an unconventional approach when the pandemic hit, where teachers were saying to us that the students for green engineering weren't quite ready for the examinations. And with one of our partners through TAPSEC, we were able to do some webinars to support students and to get them a whole lot more comfortable going into the examination. Green engineering was at the time perhaps one of the newest kids on the block when it comes on to syllabuses at CXC, one that is near and dear to my own heart. But then we could also look at avenues perhaps for the development of new subject areas. I don't know where that would take us, but with all this conversation about ocean technology and blue ocean technology and everything else that is targeting sustainability and the general agenda that we want to achieve at CARICOM, certainly there are opportunities. I'm sure our registrar, Dr. Wayne Wesley, would be happy to have a conversation to take us down that pathway. And with CXC positioned to become the digital enterprise that we are gunning to be by 2025, then there certainly is that opportunity for us to be able to do heavy integration of electronic learning ideas. I mean, some things we were able to do coming into the pandemic. It was kind of new for many of us, and things were evolving. Now that we have a lot of lessons learned, we could do something a little bit more exciting. I'm seeing perhaps simulators being made available so that students can practice as they do their school-based assessments. I'm seeing cross-teaching with teachers and experts from other entities. I'm seeing where the energy experts that are sitting in this room may be willing to do, let's say, a 5-minute video clip that we could integrate into learning modules that could be made available to all our students across the region. So there are lots of ideas that are just popping up into my head. So when you go for TAPSEC 2, we look forward to the collaboration. That much I'll tell you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jody. And before I forget, I would like to allude to our partners that we have in our presence, who are from the Dominican Republic, because we have one project in the Dominican Republic, which is a theme park project, and we're considering that to be one of our centers of excellence. And that might have been strategically located within the CARIFORUM because that can also add more value in the area of capacity building when we look at languages. But that's just my idea out loud, okay? All right. Okay, thanks. Okay, so to continue on that stance, I will go back to my right to Dr. Burton, and we will now discuss what are some of the impacts of the automated system that you would have had in place, and listening to what we now have with the SIE, how that can help us in building out different scenarios where we can now assess what are some of the things that we can plan to do. And in so doing, if you have already looked at it, what would be some areas for further capacity development going forward? And give us like a timeline for development considering the 43% by 2027.
Thank you. I was quite intrigued by some of what I heard from my colleagues. I didn't know all of the details in terms of what TAPSEC had done with CXC and RUN, but listening, it really piqued my interest because Carolec has been actually doing quite a bit in terms of capacity building over the years. And so just to share with you perhaps some opportunities for further collaboration and synergies, right? So first of all, we have an online platform known as CAREC, which is the Carolec Renewable Energy Community that we are now transitioning to reposition as the Carolec Resilient Energy Community, wanting to keep the acronym of CAREC. So we're replacing the R for renewable with resilient. But that platform is well established. Over the many years, we developed that platform in collaboration with RMI, Carbon War Room, the Clinton Foundation, IRENA, and UNDP about 6-7 years ago. And at the moment, we have 1,526 members on that platform. We run regular webinars. I'll give you some numbers just to now talk about opportunities for collaboration on the with academia, right? So we have over 350 utility practitioners, over 380 business developers, over 80 researchers, 60 regulators, and other persons as part of the 1,526 members on the online web-based CAREC platform. We have over 106 technical documents, 16 project tools, 10 position papers, 7 templates, all available through that platform. It's a free platform. Anyone could sign up and join. We've had lots of learning events. It's interesting to see the figures, how they jump from 2019 to 2020. In 2019, we had 15 learning events on the online platform. 15 learning events. Attendees, we had a modest 164. In 2020, we had the same number of learning events, 15, and the number of attendees was 1,319. You could guess why, right? But overall, for 2020, Carolec actually had 43 learning events, mostly online, with an additional 1,500 attendees. So we're very active in the capacity building space, and what's happening at the level of CXC and also RUN presents an opportunity for students, academics at all levels to get industry-based exposure to the concepts and the topics that they would have learned in the school setting. Yeah, so they would have an opportunity to interact with industry practitioners and the numbers that I just outlined. We've also developed recently a new membership category. I alluded to it this morning, not the IPP membership category, but this year for the first time we launched an individual membership category. So what we're trying to do there is to ensure that we broaden the ambit of the association to include more synergies and learning, intergenerational learning. So our individual membership category now, we have 4 classes. So we have a category for students, student membership. So a student could become a member of Carolec in their own name and standing, which is for the first time ever, right? For the last 32 years, we're an association of corporate entities, utilities, big, companies providing services to the sector and so on. So we have this individual membership category with the student membership class, so undergraduates, and now we'll extend it down as I saw some opportunities there for your teachers who have been trained in the area of greening and so on, could become members, attend conferences, publish in the Carolec Industry Journal that we put out twice a year, and do presentations at our conferences, because our conferences are not just like sales pitches. We have a vetting committee, we do a call for papers, we screen papers, and persons get an opportunity to present and publish in the journal that comes out twice a year. Yes, so it's quite rigorous academic standards with what we do. In addition to that, the other class of membership, in addition to students, is for individual practitioners. So prosumers, PV installers could apply and become members of CARILEC in their own standing. And in the other spectrum, we also have honorary and honorary lifetime membership category. And that is to ensure, like I said, what we refer to as intergenerational knowledge transfer. So the CEOs and the industry experts that are leaving the industry with reams of knowledge and expertise and experience that is not documented anywhere, unfortunately, we hope to retain and have them engage in coaching, mentorship, training, doing panels such as this. And we found that the little that we've done of it so far, they are more free to share their experiences because they're no longer fettered by institutional ties. Yeah? So a former CEO could speak more freely about challenges and so on than a sitting CEO many times. Because, you know, with many of these utilities are state-owned, and they have to be more mindful as to what they say publicly because there's a politician maybe listening and watching, right? So that's what we hope to attain through that new membership category, rich intergenerational knowledge, sharing knowledge transfer, and that could extend down to the secondary level, to the RUN network, by having that engagement with CARILEC and our online platforms. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Burton, and I know we're pressed for time, but I must hear from Dr. Ruth, and then we'll wrap it up with an overall outlook from Ms. Farquharson. Dr. Ruth?
Thank you. Well, I think all of us in this room are committed to seeing sustainable energy propelled in the Caribbean region. Through the RUN, and we have advanced beyond just keeping within the borders of academia. And it is important that we begin to expand our collaboration with the private sector and with investors, so that whatever comes out of the universities are practical and have applications that we can actually propel our targets to meet our energy sustainable efforts to do that. What we found was that among the universities, we have differences in the levels of learning and levels of application. And so there's this richness that comes out when we are able to collaborate with each other. And we're about to go into the CARIForum arena so that we are able to collaborate with our non-English speaking neighbors. And so it is important that we continue to expand our cooperation, to expand our partnerships. And TAPSEC has been an amazing partner in facilitating this. The CCRE has been an amazing partner, and I, at the risk of getting slapped, I think I have to say thanks to Ms. Sherry Ann Farquharson and to Mr. Elson Jordan for the support they gave us when we were doing these projects. So for the teachers, there are many teachers who we had to do some training during the pandemic. And as Jolene said, that there is still not a strong understanding of the concepts of sustainability. And so we are having to build into that, and so that as teachers, they must be able to transfer that knowledge to their students. So we're not just going to focus on graduate work, on undergraduate work, but we have to mainstream it throughout the society. And I'm pleased to know that we are on a path. We are still learning because there were some difficulties in some of the projects, people who don't respond to surveys and so on. And we are still learning how to further improve the feedback that we get from our regional partners. And with this, I just want to say that we are committed as a RUN to undertake more projects. It's not just about a project life that ends, but we have built in the sustainability that is required to continue. We will run some pilot studies and pilot demonstration projects, as well as we will also be expanding on some of the modules that we have already developed so that there can be more persons with the new jobs. According to IRENA, there will be like 85 million new jobs in renewable energy. How are we going to prepare our students? How are we going to prepare even our lecturers and our teachers to be able to be hands-on? And so we have found that we need to engage more of the technical components of the learning so that people don't just graduate with a degree or a master's, but when they do graduate, they would have some certification in terms of being able to implement. And I think that we recognize that that's a big shortage in the Caribbean region. How many people really do know how to set up a PV system? We can learn about it. We could probably go online and use the software to the design, but do we have that? And that is where internships also come into play. And we are all open to further collaboration. Already, one university has indicated that they will take up 4 of the online modules that we have developed at the University of Technology, recognizing that traditional jobs will not be there for our youth. And so we have to encourage entrepreneurship, we have to innovate, we have to adapt, even to suit our local climes as we also address the issue of sustainable development and climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pratap Singh. I'm tempted to question you more on the adaptation you see coming in the future, but I wouldn't. We'll save that maybe for some more of a working group discussion, because coming from this team, from the different members on this panel, we can see where there's a need for more in-depth delving into the capacity development needs in the region. And so, without further ado, I would welcome Ms. Farquharson to tell us about what are some of the next steps as one of our key regional partners as we proceed in the journey towards the transition and net zero.
Niebert, we have established the modeling capabilities that will allow us to answer the questions about how our demand will change and develop the scenarios that will allow us to respond to those changes. And as we have undertaken these modeling exercises, you heard about the suite of projects that are emerging. And so we have the project preparation facility, which will allow us to give that technical assistance to project developers, to financial institutions, to our government, our regulators, anyone who is interested to actively participate in this implementation of projects that are going to help us to realize our energy goals. We've heard it several times, 47% by 2027. And we've also established that data and information repository in the CARICOM Energy Knowledge Hub, the CEKH, which is going to provide that specially curated insight, highlighting the best practices, the lessons we've been learning, and will support the next round of energy planning and policy development. And with the CEKH, we're a lot younger than CARIC, so we're just about a membership of 300. But we already have more than 300 resources and we've hosted 11 events. We have about 6 courses that are available, GIS maps and the data portal, which we are in discussions with CARILEC to have that interlinkage, because we have spoken about partnership. And so while we are collecting data in the SIE CARICOM, to be able to leverage that with what is being collected by CARILEC so that we have the best information available for the region. And as we've been implementing these initiatives for the people of the region, we've brought them along with us with the training activities that we've had. Hundreds of engineers, energy officers, regulators, planners, young professionals, students, other energy stakeholders have had the opportunity to be trained, and this training content is available in perpetuity so that they can continue to develop themselves. The region is well poised to use the enhancements in human and information development to fuel the energy transition. These interventions have increased the capacity of our people to make evidence-based, data-driven decisions about our energy future and the development of our economies. We're not leaving it up to consultants from outside, and we're grateful for the consultants who've come along with us, but we're taking ownership of that. And that is where we're headed with the capacity building that has started and with what we'll continue to do. And to borrow from the SICRE's development objective, the people of our region are better equipped to create, optimize, embed, and transform the energy sector, resulting in a transformed region.
Thank you very much, Ms. Farquharson. And with that, I say thank you all for paying such rapt attention. I don't know if there were a few nods, but I understand. But thanks again, and I look forward to having further discussions with this panel and seeing how we transition our capacity base in the region. And over to you, Master MC.
Thank you very much, Dr. Blair, and to the panelists as well. And certainly your perspective on the energizing of the Caribbean's data and information culture has been very enlightening. And it brings us now to the occasion for our final partner spotlight, the University of the West Indies.
Sustainable development is something that all small island developing states have to engage in, and the University of the West Indies leads on this for all the 17 countries that contribute. The project that we undertook with TAPSEC was to try and add additional energy in terms of solar energy to our Discovery Bay Marine Laboratory. The TAPSEC project did three major things for us. One, it provided solar panels for the rest of the lab so that we were completely off the grid. Two, it provided backup in terms of batteries so that we were permanently off the grid. But I think the third component is perhaps the most important, which is where we're doing capacity building, where we are training the technicians to be able to do energy management. We're using that same energy management as a mechanism to beam back to the main campus of the UWI in Kingston, where our engineering and our physics department now are responsible for the technical support to keep this system running and use it as a teaching tool in our renewable energy MSc program. We could have gone out there and found any solar panels, but we got technical advice from TAPSEC so that we got the best in terms of value for money, in terms of both the panels and the batteries. We also got a lot of advice as to how to tie in the old system with a new system, new and improved. And in fact, we got the old system refurbished into a new mechanism. The support in the procurement, the support in the setup, the support in the delivery, and the concept. We were very grateful that TAPSEC, with its experience, was able to move us from just putting up a simple system to something which was so integrated that it now becomes a part of our teaching and research platform. This experience with TAPSEC was particularly rewarding. We were limited in our own expectation and reach, how far we thought we could have reached. TAPSEC and SICRE, etc., were pivotal in allowing us to see beyond just putting in one infrastructure for one location. The relationship between TAPSEC and the UWI is a model that many other institutions should be embarking upon. It should be something that can be replicated through other institutions, through government entities, through private sector, where partnership allows us to achieve goals that we never thought possible. Whether those goals are national or regional, it is possible to achieve the goals using the partnership, using the education, using the platforms that we have. TAPSEC opened many opportunities for us. It made us realize that sustainable energy is a game changer, and we should all embrace it.
As a boy growing up, I would often hear my grandmother say, as it was in the beginning, so too shall it be in the end. And as he delivered his welcoming remarks this morning, it falls to him once again to deliver his closing remarks. And he is, of course, the gentleman who is the TAPSEC program leader, Simon Zellner.
So, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends. Yeah, and to close the technical part of our closing event, of the TAPSEC closing event, is quite a profound moment for me, because it ultimately leads also to the end of the implementation of TAPSEC. It is the last time now to speak as TAPSEC program leader in front of you here in the forum today. And so if I look back and being really involved in the TAPSEC from early on, as I said earlier in my opening remarks, being able to be part of the preparation team, then being responsible for the implementation itself, and now being here at the closing event and look at all the impact and what we have been discussing today is really fantastic to see. So as I said, it's really a significant moment for me, and I would like to take the opportunity now to really thank a lot of people, a lot of institutions for their great collaborations with us. And let me please begin with our two commissioning partners, the parties of TAPSEC, which is the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the European Union, especially the day-to-day support we received from the European Union delegation here in Barbados. I want to mention Bogdan Stefanescu and Kyle Farnum here. That was really a fantastic partnership with you and working with you together. I'd also like to thank our political counterparts, of course, in the region here, which was the CARICOM Secretariat and DSG Dr. Alexis. And I must mention here also Dr. Devin Gardner, of course. I know even though he has transitioned in the meantime to the CCRI, but he was large parts of the TAPSEC's implementation, the person we have been working a lot with, as he was the program leader or the program manager in the CARICOM Secretariat. I'd also like to thank you, the Ministry of Energy and Mines in Dominican Republic, Vice Minister Rodriguez. Thank you very much for your collaboration and your support on any matter, whatever came up. Thanks a lot for that. Perhaps the most important element of TAPSEC, I think you heard that a lot today, was the close collaboration with regional institutions we had and the involvement of our implementing partners. And I'd therefore like to thank the entire CCRI team. And I just can repeat this, the entire CCRI team. Thank you very much. You did all a fantastic job in working with us together, in bringing so much into the region. That was absolute excellent. Thanks a lot. I'd like to thank the CARICOM Development Fund, Rodinald Zuma. Thanks a lot for hosting us, for providing office space for us. That was also a very close and good collaboration. Thanks CrossQ, Mr. Derek Omar and the team, also for your collaboration, for your close collaboration. You allowed us in terms of the implementation and included us, whatever you did under the financing agreement. That was really good. I'd like to thank the CDB, Joseph William and the team. They've always been available for any matters, whatever came up. I'd like to thank CARILEC, of course, Klitos, Bertin, Thomas Mitschke, and the entire team behind, of course. I can just repeat what I just said. Thanks for the collaboration, the openness, supporting us, and bringing so much more to the region now. I'd also like to thank the UWI campuses, all three campuses, especially the UWI Mona campus in Jamaica. We have seen just a testimonial. I'd like to thank you, Stanley Smalley, for all your contribution to bring the solar PV system and the training center, the microgrid system, to life. I'd like to thank CXC, Ms. Jodine Williams, and the team behind. Thanks, you outlined well in the panel just what you have been doing. Thanks a lot for that. And I also like to thank Olade. I know they are not here today, but you have seen the video earlier. They have established a regional energy information system, and I hope there's some collaboration to come in future also with the CCRI. Yeah, I'd also like to thank all the national electric utilities, the regulatory authorities, the ministry responsible for energy, and national institutions from all CARIFORUM member states who will work with us together. A big thank you also to the regional international consulting companies and individual consultants involved in the project implementation. Thank you very much for the technical expertise you provided and especially your flexibility. Thanks a lot. We draw on that a lot, and we were grateful that you provided that. My biggest personal thank you goes to the entire TAPSEC team now. And I really like to have you all on the stage here. So I call you out and I ask you please to come up to the stage, because you did really an incredible good job, and I want to have you with me here when we close. So Sparkle Prentice, our Senior Policy Regulations and Resilience Advisor. Nibet, you are already here. Please stand up. Join me here. Nibet Blair, Capacity Development Advisor. Grace Williams, Communications and Visibility Officer. Theo Kadov, Communications and Visibility Advisor. Julia Kraus, our Financial Manager. I think everyone knows her. Bernd Gabers, our Climate Resilience Advisor. And of course, Sophie Vargas, Business Development Expert. Come up and join us. I also want to mention a few persons who are unfortunately not here today. Thank you very much also for your contribution. Corinna Tölzer, our Project Development Advisor, and also Evelyn Sandoval, who was the project, or is the Project Administration Officer in Dominican Republic. Both unfortunately can join us today. And I also like to thank my friend Charlie Della Rosa. He was also former TAPSEC team member. He was the Sustainable Energy Advisor from Dominican Republic. I'd like to mention Misha Clark as well. That was former Capacity Development Advisor. And we have another former team member in the room, which is Nigel Duncan, our former TAPSEC Project Administration Officer. Thank you a lot. Thank you for all your contribution. I'm really honored to have been working with you. Please, a round of applause. I also like to mention two colleagues I've been working very closely with and were very important for the implementation of the project, which is my manager Verena Blickwede and my friend Clemens Findeisen from the PTE project in Dominican Republic. And finally, I also want to mention a person never mentioned really related to TAPSEC and definitely not in public yet. However, she perhaps knows the project better than everyone from inside out, who is my wife, Amy. She was always listening. She was always listening to me, gave advice, and supported me. So I really hope I haven't forgotten anyone. Please forgive me that I have not been able to mention everyone by name. The network what TAPSEC created, what was around TAPSEC was just too large. But I really like to thank you again. Thank you so much for everyone. I'm pleased to have been part of the journey here in the region for so long. And TAPSEC couldn't have been implemented without you. We have achieved this all together. Thank you very much.
True confession, prior to attending this conference, I had no knowledge of TAPSEC and its activities, but today has been a real watershed for me. Effectively speaking, there's been a whole lot of learning of how to fish over these past 5 years, so let's go on with feeding ourselves. And additionally, this conference has restored my faith in Caribbean hospitality and friendships, meeting Elizabeth from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Amanda from Guyana, and certainly you, Dr. Blair, during the exchanges. It has been a reminder that we have more in common than we have differences. Let us go forward. This brings to an end the TAPSEC Technical Conference. You're invited to remain with us for the official closing ceremony. On behalf of TAPSEC, I'm Wayne Simmons. When you return home, do so safely. Until next time. Good evening.